looking at Sky's path to try and make that final 6. This is really the first match. Of course, that win in the last is huge, but to make up ground on someone ahead of him, Naoyuki Oi is that first opponent. And he got a little quick with the transition there. Lucky to make the 2 up in the corner. He's going to get a nice shot on the 1 with a little angle as well. I'm not sure the 3 passes the 5. It just shows you how fickle the break is. I mean, he broke. I thought the technique in his last match was really good on the break shot. And looks like the 3 does pass. Not much stress, it looks like, in Skyler's demeanor.
Yeah, if you weren't watching, in the last match, Woodward was 4-0 up on Shane Van Bonen, but got pegged back to 4-3. Got the job done in the next rack. Qualified for this phase with just 7 wins from his 15 matches in the opening stage. And last year it took 15 wins to get through from the second phase. Remember, all wins carrying forward from stage 1. It could definitely go lower than that. I think 14 would have a pretty good chance, but even that would mean having to win 7 out of 9 in this second phase. But at least he's made a start on that.
Yeah. Took a few little body blows yesterday, winning his first match, which got him through, but he could have really helped himself out with those remaining 2 matches. It looks like he's left that behind, but everything's so important, every game. Of course, wins and losses the most important, but we're going to see, I think, at some point, the rack differential will really come into play.
Just like in the previous match, Woodward off to a good start. He leads Naoyuki Oi 1-0.
Wins the rack.
So, Jeremy, where would you say he's at in his career? He's going to be 30 later this year. We've talked about him for some time as someone who could win one of the very biggest titles. Hasn't happened for him yet. Where do you feel he's at now in relation to where he would have expected to be coming towards the end of his 20s?
I mean, he's still in a good position. I think a few years ago I would have predicted a little better results in some of the bigger events. But it's a process, and Skyler's got to recognize the things that are going to take him further, and he's not in a bad spot by any means. He's just got to keep the motivation in there and keep attacking, and probably away from the table as much as anything. Make sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted, right? Oh, watch out, cue ball. And I think for anything really, for Skyler and a lot of players, it's
ball in hand,
really picking out a proper schedule for the year. When's the time to take some time off, enjoy some other things, and when's the time to really put in the time practicing and whatever it is that's going to make you better. I think a little bit of in between can kind of keep you in between, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think any player who wants to take a bit of a breather during the year after this event might be a good time to do it, because a bit of a gap, and then we've got World Masters and World Cup and European Open and a new event as well, a new Open event coming along, and then even that all leads into the US Open at the end of the summer. So now might be a good time if players wanted to take a bit of a step back.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case for Skyler. I think, anyways, we were talking last night, that he committed to a smaller ranking event in the Boston area as soon as he gets back from here. But then after that, he is going to get some time off.
Yeah, I think Shaw's playing in that as well. He was talking about playing the tournament in Bosnia next week, but is not doing that now.
And there's quite a few, you know, contending Americans. And then what we're talking about contending is always that Mosconi Cup, right? That are attending that event in Boston. So,
well, that could be huge in terms of Mosconi standings, because if you look at the big field events with the biggest points on offer, you're playing against players from all over the world. So there might not be much movement in the American standings from those events. Whereas if it's primarily an American field in that tournament we're talking about, that could have a really big say in who's in that team for London in December.
yeah, and so many of those smaller ranking events that, you know, you're going to see players, of course, get to stay in the States and attend some ranking events. So that's a great thing. But I think you're going to see a little more noise from a few Americans in some of the bigger ones. And this guy is definitely one I expect to make some of that noise. You know, and you all take defeats, and you all take, you know, whether it be dogging it a little bit, however you want to label it, bad luck at times. But when you're prepared, and it seems like you shake that off a lot easier. Just like when I played, and if I played a good match and got beat, I couldn't wait to play my next match. It really didn't take, you know, it's sickening to lose, of course, when you play well, but even when you play kind of poorly and win a match, you want to make up for it, of course, but you don't go into the next one so positive at times. So a little overrun here. He missed a couple shots towards the end of the rack in Shane's match, so got to bury these.
Yeah, he'd been slightly out of position on the 7, having had to stretch a bit on the previous shot. Did well, in fact, to get into the cue ball as he did, even to get on the 7. So he wasn't in ideal position for the last few shots. Left himself a tricky 9, but it's an ideal start for Skyler Woodward. He leads Naoyuki Oi 2-0. What about from Oi's point of view then, Jeremy? He's 40 years of age now, and I know he made his name a few years ago with all the antics and the bizarre TV interviews and that, but that really hides what a determined competitor he is. And he's someone who, for about the last 3 years, has just kept on steadily improving and enhancing his standing in the world game. Could he be a winner of a big event?
Oh, absolutely. You can't accidentally get to the semifinal of the U.S. Open, and, you know, the year he had just a couple years ago. And I think Oi's got to kind of look at the same thing, the schedule. I see that man making as many miles in the air as anyone, and that can tax on you, especially approaching 40 years old. And he expends a lot of energy when he plays as well. So better transition there. That's why the one on the side, a lot more solid. The 8's going to get in the way here. And that's the thing to me also is, you know, when you're prepared a little more fully, you see him getting very upset about a snooker here in game 3 after winning the first 2. And to me, I don't know, I just always felt like it was part of the game. Now, don't get me wrong, once it happens time and time again, it can easily get frustrating, but I don't want to call it a sign of weakness. That's the wrong way to label it, but maybe on the edge of stress, because that's just part of the game. I mean, we see it every match, time and time again.
Naoyuki, your choice.
I don't think Oi's going to pass on this at 2-0. Got to try and make his mark right now. One thing for me is the way it sits and the way I feel the cue ball is going to land over the 8. May have a little trouble with the cue ball going towards this opposite corner here. I'm sure he kind of feels it as well. And you see the cue ball going towards there. Nice adjustment and a heck of a shot.
Yeah, that US Open semi-final was 2021. Beat some very good players to get to the last four. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, then Fedor Gorst.
Extension call.
He wasn't far away from getting to the final. It was a close one against Carlo Biado, who went on to win the title in Atlantic City.
Yeah, Carlo just kind of took that title away from Aloysius Yap, who looked like he was fairly unbeatable. Is he getting some movement on the 9 here, trying to slide the 3 by? Oh, nice shot. I think the players are going to rethink some of these push outs to the jump shot a little more often. Like maybe push out to a jump that doesn't offer position. Now it's not always available, but you know, they don't want to roll out to what looks like an easy safety, but early in the rack you can kick out of a lot of things. There's so many balls on the table, and you know, one of the golden rules is you don't want to roll out and then never get back to the table.
It looks like that's what's going to happen. It's a bit like bunker shots in golf used to be seen as a real challenge for the top players, but now they're so good at them they'd almost rather be in the bunker than in the rough around it. And likewise with the jump shots. And what it's all led to is Naoyuki Oi opening his account. He still trails Skyler Woodward, but now it's 2-1. Skyler Woodward looking for back-to-back wins after his victory over Shane Van Boening, and he's going the right way about it. 2-1 up against Naoyuki Oi. The man from Japan has the break.
2 racks to 1. Half strike.
Another loss of the cue ball, kind of identical to his first break. And he plays with a lot of side, so it's not going to be straight back into the 9. It's always going to check with the side and go a little higher, which brings the side pocket into play more. And he's made 3 on the break as well. So is he drawing between the 4-6 here, or is he just sliding over? Yeah, nice shot. He wanted to probably go a hair more, maybe to be able to reach it a little easier, but should be okay. Yeah, when it comes to talent, I really don't think there's any more talented player than Skyler. I'm not saying he's the most talented, but I mean, like I said, I don't think there's any more talented player, but sometimes you got to look at what the other players are doing, right? And kind of take a page out of their book.
Scratch on the break from Oi. But 3 other balls went down as well, so there wasn't a great deal left for Woodward to do. And he's done it to restore the 2-rack advantage at 3-1. We are now at a stage where players are playing each other for the 2nd time in the tournament. It's not long since these two met. It was right at the end of the first phase last night. Oi coming through in a hill-hill finish, which was one of 11 wins he got from his 15 matches to finish 2nd in the Phase 1 table. This is the scratch off the break, and as you said, Jeremy, pretty much an action replay from rack 2.
Yeah, and you wonder, you don't want to get complacent with all those wins, like Sanjin, of course, and Ruiz with another win today, but you don't want to apply that pressure either, so it's a fine line mentally, which is this, You know, they always say it's about 80% of the game once you become a great player anyways.
They met in the Premier League last year.
Rack
Woodward
5.
won that time by
Skyler Woodward
5 racks
break.
to 3. It wasn't a good
Only 3
tournament for
racks
Oi.
to
He
1.
only won 5 of his 15 matches. Went out in the first phase.
And we'll see with the 2 over the hole, even though he's snookered, probably takes on the kick shot here. And Oi has always been a fast player, but from what I've seen in 2023 is even faster than what I'd seen in years past. Will take a little time. Like here, he's trying to decide how to come out of the pocket to get on the 3, to get on the 4. That's the main concern. Looks like that should be okay. Probably takes a little distance here, maybe drawing the cue ball over. Oh, he's looking at really letting it loose and getting to the short side. That's surprising. I thought he would just kind of lay up and take the cut shot and come around the 5. The center of the table's very open. Yeah, that's what he's done. Actually got a ton out of that cue ball there.
I mentioned the pace of play from him in 2023, and it's been a reasonable start to the year for Oi. 5th at the Turning Stone in New York in January, and did get to single elimination at the World Championship and managed to advance a bit further. Got to the last 32 in the end. Quite heavily beaten though by Woo Kun Lin, who went on to the semis. So Woodward's first dry break of the match is going to be an expensive one. As off the back of it, Oi has pulled back to within a rack once again. Woodward now leads 3-2.
Naoyuki Oi wins the rack.
Talking about the fact that Woodward might need to win about 7 of his 9 matches in this phase. That was exactly what he did last year. In fact, he had finished phase 1 so strongly that at one point, by the time we got roughly halfway through Sunday, he'd won 11 out of 12 matches, an amazing record against players of this quality. But would you see him as someone who's like that, JJ, quite streaky in that way, that once he gets on a roll, he can keep on winning?
Yeah, I think this format's set up pretty well for him as far as, you know, the more he plays, usually the stronger he gets. And I mean, most of the greats are like that, but I think he's one that you could say for sure is like that, and that'll continue. He needs another great streak here, though, to get to Monday.
Trading 3 racks to 2.
Okay, he's going to get a very thin cut shot in the corner. I think it is playable, but I'm not sure he really takes it on. Not easy position on the 3. There is a 3-9 possibility. He's looking at the cross side bank to draw back underneath the 3 for the opposite side pocket. And he's overhit this. He's going to get a little 50-ish, especially with the 4 a little bit on the top rail. And the thing I was talking about schedule is, you know, for all these players, like you talked about Turning Stone, and, you know, he went to Derby, probably went to an event between those, you know, gets around a lot
Extension
from the
call.
Far East, of course, Japan, but not only time off, but when do you get time to train, to work on things away from winning, right? A lot of body movement there, but he hit it perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there's time between matches at tournaments, but that's not really the place to be working on things, is it? You've got to have the work done before you get to the event.
Yeah, there's little tweaks or things that the players feel, and, you know, that's why they're so great, because of the feedback they get. But, you know, most of the players have someone they trust to put some eyes on them, or talk about things and then put in some time improving situations. And, you know, maybe years ago when there wasn't quite as many big events, it kind of offered that more for players to get that time away and also work on some things. And, you know, now I think they have to be very clear cut with that.
It's a nice complaint to have, though, isn't it? Having all these wonderful events to play in. And Naoyuki Oi has been involved in all 3 years of this tournament. Did well in year 1 when it was still the Championship League. Not so well last year, but he's having a very good campaign in 2023. And he's got every chance to win this match as well. From 3-1 down, he's levelled at 3-all. The finish is next.
Wins the rack.
Naoyuki Oi looking to move all the way back up to 2nd place in the Premier League. Currently 6th in the table.
Rack 7.
He was 3-1 down to Skyler Woodward. But now it's level pegging as Woodward gets us underway in rack 7.
Yeah, and just watch the backswing. That's the one that really determines. That was better, not as quick, and that's why we see the one in the side versus 2 of them where he got a little quick and the one hit a little low on one and a little high on the other.
Well, there's 3 rail says goes 1. You know what I mean? I don't even have that hard.
Yeah, and I think Skyler has a little bit of a point there. I think of what he was talking about is questioning the speed of Oi's break. And to be fair, I've heard it throughout the practice room the entire week about that. A lot of players have brought up that, you know, it's not once or twice, but many occasions they felt like Oi was a little light with the break speed.
Yeah, we've seen players warned for that already today. But it seems like a strange time to bring it up. You know, off the back of his own break, to then suddenly start talking about Oi's.
Well, I think he put in comparison to the referee. Did you see my cue ball go 3 rails back and forth where Oi's is just hitting 1 rail? And the one that, to me, that appears the most obvious is being able to make the wing ball. It just doesn't seem like if you do get that forceful break, the wing ball is just very rare. And we've seen Oi make it quite often this week. Now, the spin that he puts on the cue ball does help that. But I think, again, that's a combination of a little lighter speed with the spin.
The thing is, if you've got an issue with the opponent's break, if you then make an issue of it, there's probably less chance of the other guy getting warned because the referee won't want to be seen to have been influenced.
True, true.
And yet, as we've seen, and indeed we did see at the World Championship with Pagulayan, and again in the match where it happened earlier today, it seems to work in a player's favour every time they get spoken to about the power and the break.
Yeah, and I was trying to recall which match it was. Oh, it was Yap at the World Championships. Okay, he's going to have to kind of cheat the pocket here to draw past the side. And this is where tempo is a big deal. If you get a little quick, the ball doesn't grab correctly and you could catch the point. That was pretty smooth there. But it was Yap's match, I believe, and I'm trying to remember who he was playing. But he was breaking terribly. I mean, you know, he wasn't making a ball ever. Getting terrible clusters, and even if he did make a ball, it didn't look like a run out was possible. And his opponent questioned the speed, which I think the speed was questionable. But to me, if my opponent's not breaking very well and not making balls, I'm not going to change a thing. And that's what happened. His opponent made a little bit of a complaint and actually helped Yap through that match, and he broke the balls a lot better afterwards. Making a pretty gritty out here. Nice 2-ball to open. Nice 5-ball to get past the side. And A little thin on the 9, so he's got to pay attention.
Break and run from Oi to draw level. Woodward responds in kind
Skyler Woodward
to be
wins the
first to
rack.
the hill at 4-3. Woodward's last match of the session. And he'll still have 2 more to play tonight against Albin Ocean and Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. Oi will be staying on to face Alex Pagulayan. As we've said, if Oi wins, he goes on to 12 wins. He'd be only 1 behind the leader, Pelovanovic, then, and he'd shoot up all the way from 6th to 2nd in the table. But if that is to happen, he's got to win the last 2 racks here.
Yeah, and all very qualified
Right.
referees here, the best in the
Good
game.
break.
But you kind of
Break
wonder
forward
if
to
maybe
3.
if Marcel was in there, maybe something would have been talked about a little quicker.
Yeah, Marcel Eckhart, a more experienced referee, might be more comfortable making a call like that, so it's a very fair point.
Yeah, you can see a little hand gesture
Level.
from Skyler as well.
Barely hit.
Yeah, I think he just said you're barely hitting them. I don't know what you think, Jeremy. You're much more qualified to say than me, but I don't know if that's really on to be making a comment to the player when he's at the table like that.
Yeah, I probably would just stick to the referee. Now, some of the players are very comfortable with each other, of course, and not saying that makes a difference, but maybe easier to not think about what you're doing before you do it. And I talked about different things that maybe would even improve the break situation at times. I don't think it can really be done in a winter break format, or I haven't come up with the way to do it, but in the alternate break formats, I think it would be good to where you have to break from one side your first break and then switch sides the second. That way you can't get it dialed in from one side. I think it will give us some statistical things that would be interesting to look at. And I think, again, in the alternate break format, I think it could be a viable change.
Yeah, a lot of merit in that idea. And just to bring a bit more variety from rack to rack as well, from a spectator point of view, I think that would be a plus. Well, these guys are really hitting a pretty high standard here. Not quite where he wanted to be on the 7, but every chance here. We're going to see our 3rd break and run in a row to take us to a hill to finish.
Yeah, that's where in our sport we don't have a caddy and different things like that. But Skyler's got a long road to hoe these next 2 days, and I think getting frustrated about what his opponent is doing is probably a little premature. Hard not to get frustrated, of course, but pretty strong-minded young man.
Oi was 3-1 down in this match. He's won 3 out of 4 racks since then. For the second time on consecutive days, these two are going the distance. Woodward will have the break, and given the way the play has gone in the last few racks, that could be very significant. Woodward down in 9th place at the moment, only 8 wins. He's going to need to win. He would feel the overwhelming majority of his matches in this phase. Shane Van Bonin also on 8, but he's only got 7 matches left to go, and Van Bonin getting pretty close to the stage where there would be no room for further error. You look at 6th place at the moment is 11, and we're still at an early stage of this phase, so the 15 that we got last year, it's going to be pretty close to that. I don't think 13 would do. I think 14 is pretty much the minimum these guys have got to be looking for.
Yeah, once we had the phase 1 where we had a few players not winning many matches, I think 13 kind of went out the window. Better connection there. This 2 may get covered up a little bit. And this is, again, never see a break and run, it seems like. I'll tell you. He may go aggressive here. I'm not sure what he has. We'll get the overhead here in a moment once these balls settle. Can he hit enough of the 2, kind of maybe with a lot of left English, to come across it thickly and go behind the 6? I'm not sure that natural shot is available. The cross side bank does play. There's a very ugly 5-7-8 attached on that side rail as well. I think he's shooting the bank. Really good speed, and one thing is the 5-8 combination is not the most difficult if you get on it and the 4 is near.
The banking ability is such a great weapon for Woodward to have, isn't it? It gives him so many more options in how to make outs.
Yeah, and the amazing thing, I think I talked about it on day 1, is how often he still makes them. I mean, it's one thing to play banks or to get to bank a lot, but in the midst of the 9-ball games, be able to come with the shot continually on the bank shot is pretty special. And he may have gotten an angle to go into the purple 5 here. The problem is the cue ball could rest on the rail, making it difficult to get on the 6. He kind of came pretty clean there. Can he dodge the upper right-hand corner here? I think he can. That means get the cue ball to the top rail and come 2 rails down. Still a lot of concern. He doesn't want to have to shoot the 7-8. And I think here he's got to float this a little more.
Yes, you do have one, yeah.
Maybe not get all the way
Extension
down. Maybe just get 2 rails past the side and take the cut on the 6, like there where he pointed. If he tries to hit it too hard, he may deflect into this corner pocket with the cue ball.
Taking the extension, but doesn't offer you limitless time.
Is he going 3 rails? That's got to slow down. That may be history with the cue ball there. He's still got to make another incredible shot. Whether he goes into the 7, past the 7, the 9's impeding. Yeah, we saw a similar 6-ball missed against SVB.
Now a late twist in what's been a high-quality match. Oi is scratched on the break 2 of the 4 times he's had it. Yet, and in a race to 5, where you would expect that to be almost decisive, looks a clear favourite to get the win here. Woodward will be so frustrated. Came into this phase without much room for error. We felt he was going to have to win 7 of his 9, surely at least 6. If he'd managed to finish this first session on Saturday with 2 wins from 2, he'd feel, well, I'm doing everything I can at the moment. And it looked as though he was going to. But left himself with a trickier 6 than he would have envisaged.
Naoyuki Oi wins the match. 5
Once he'd missed it, Naoyuki Oi polished it off from there. So from 3-1 down, Naoyuki Oi has turned it around to beat Skyler Woodward 5-4.